Today we're finally going to get started on this beast, on the fuel system. And what we're going to be installing is the FiTech Mini. So stick around, let's see how this goes on. So I did finally decide that I'm going to shove it on the driver's side, right where the reservoir used to be for the windshield wipers. So I have to remove the bracketry, and I'm going to probably remove this cross brace right here, just so that I can have some more room to work. It's going to be very interesting because I know I have a lot of switches in here, and I have the mechanism for the hideaway headlights. And on the 67, the hideaway headlights were electric, and so I have quite a few switches and some wires in here that I'm going to have to be careful for. If you're not going to remember where anything goes, I would suggest you label things. What I did when I blew the whole car apart and redid it myself inside of my garage before is I basically went out and bought a whole bunch of Ziploc bags and put all the hardware and everything inside of Ziploc bags and just stored them that way until they were ready to be used again. And believe me, when after years go by, 4 years I worked on putting this thing together, tearing it apart, putting it together again, and really, after 4 years, you don't remember where anything goes. That was the best thing I ever did. I actually prefer using hand tools on my classic car, and that's mostly because some of these nutserts and some of the built-in welded-on nuts are so fragile that if you use something like an impact driver, you're probably just going to end up breaking them off or stripping them to high heaven, which actually has happened to me a couple of times, and that's why I stopped using these things and went to the hand tools. You could do whatever you like, just be very, very careful with these things. That's what I would recommend. And just like that, this 55-year-old bracket comes off, probably for the last time. All right, after we've actually checked to see if it actually sits in there nicely, which I believe it does, right about there, the best idea that we can do in order to mount it first is to remove the bracket from the back of the FiTech Mini and see how the holes align. And if not, we're probably gonna have to add some new holes. We'll see. Alright, so here we go. I have one screw temporarily mounted on there, and it's actually using one of the original holes. And I think I can use the other hole, which is right up here, but the problem is this one is very, very large, so I'm going to have to put a through bolt there with a nut on the back side in order to make that one work. As for this bottom hole and the other bottom hole, I'm probably going to have to drill a brand new little hole that will use the original fasteners for that. But that's okay, because what I could do is I can use one of these automatic center punch tools. Actually, I believe you can get this at Harbor Freight. And maybe just make a pilot hole and then find the correct size hole to drill for the original fasteners. And we should be good at that. Let's find out. Now, before I go making any marks with the center punch in order to be able to make some pilot holes, I want to make sure that this bracket is nice and straight, because otherwise we're going to end up with a cattywampus FiTech Mini, and why make it look ugly, right? So we're going to put a little level on it before we make our mark. And there we go. Spring loaded, does all the work for you. You don't need a punch with a hammer. Good to go. Now that the center punch is actually giving me a nice little dimple for me to do my pilot hole, before I go doing anything crazy like drilling through this, I need to make sure that I don't have any wires on the back side. And as a matter of fact, I believe I need to be extra special careful. And before I go doing something crazy, I believe there's a small little wire for my open limit switch right here. So I'm going to start with a small hole, but I'm not going to go drilling all the way through. When I'm done drilling the holes, what I did is I grabbed a slightly larger size drill bit and deburred the holes from the inside and from the back side. Just leaves it a little nicer. After the holes are ready, we need to tap them in order to be able to get these in there. So I actually have a set of taps that I actually have used on this, but if you don't have a tap, what you can do is you can grab one of your original fasteners and drive it in there with the impact driver. Not the best thing in the world to do, but again, if you guys are looking to do it on the cheap, you can do it this way. Let's give it a look. See? Let's do it to another one. So there you go. I was able to drive it and tap it with one of the original screws in one of the holes, and the other one I had already used my tap on it. So you can do it either way. And here we go. The mounting bracket is on there. I have 3 of the bolts on there. I might have to go somewhere in order to buy another through bolt for it, unless I can find one in my stash of goodies. And as you can see here, well, I don't know if you can see it from there, but according to my little trusty level, that's level. She's in there. One less thing to do. Well, here we have our mounted Mini, and as you can see, it's a very comfortable location here for it. So I've also run our Evil Energy 300 PSI fuel hose. So this is a high pressure fuel hose that's going to be just perfect for our EFI system. So I'm actually plumbed it and ran it the way I want to run it, and I'm about to show you how that is. But I left myself about, I don't know, 3/4 of a foot extra just in case. This one is going to go into, I believe, this port right here. So I gave myself a little bit of extra just so I can not have to worry about it later on down the line. So just keep in mind that this is specific to a Camaro. This isn't every other car. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody's car. So my application is going to run from here, and I'm going between the fender and the wheel well, and it actually has gone all the way to the back like I actually thought I wanted to do it, actually, and it worked out really well. So it comes out back there, and the hose comes out right over there, right next to the body mount. You can see it right there. And it goes out to the floor. Now, it's not attached yet, but it will be. It comes out right next to my brake lines, so it's a perfect spot for it. So the fuel line comes out right here, and right at the exact same location that my brake lines come out. Not this one right here at the front. The one in the front is actually my parking brake. But that's my brake line over there. So it comes out right next to it. And I think I might actually use another one of these clamps right below it and attach the fuel line so that one bolt actually holds on both clamps. And then I'm going to run and mirror the brake line with the fuel line all the way to the back. And I'm probably going to use either the same mounts, just like I was thinking about doing over here. Oh, here's another one. So I'll do that, and then probably some self-tapping screws all the way to the back, and then up over the axle, and right into the tank. 25 feet actually was more than enough. I'm kind of happy I got that. Good deal. So yeah, apparently a monsoon decided to come in through my garage while I was videoing the next few clips. So I couldn't get rid of the actual wind noise from the video, and so I did the next best thing. So instead of trying to dub in new audio on top of my lips and trying to do lip syncing, I decided to take care of the issue. I hope you guys don't mind. It's only for a couple of minutes. Alright, here's a great idea on how you can remove the tank easily without hurting yourself. When you're ready to remove the tank, disconnect the lines leading to the pump on the passenger side. Place a couple of 2x4s like this on each side of the tank and have somebody support it just like I'm showing you right here. And then disconnect the tank straps. At that point, just drop the tank. Now, there you go. It's as easy as that. Just don't forget to remove this sending wire right here before you try to yank the tank out.
Now you could do this with the tank either empty or full. It's preferable if you have it empty, but if you're having a hard time trying to siphon out that fuel, then go ahead and do it full. It doesn't really make any difference. It's actually lighter than it seems when you're using leverage with the 2x4s. Now that the tank is out, it's as easy as finding somebody to give you a hand, and all you have to do is tip the tank into a receptacle and just pour out the gasoline, and you're done. Once the tank is out, it'll be time to attach the bung. Before removing the tank, though, you really should go underneath the car and determine where the bung hole should go for your application.
Do not make my bunghole angry!
For my application, before I removed the tank, I decided to put the bung hole right in the front of the tank to the side of the sending unit, as per the instructions requirement that you do not place it directly in front of either the sending unit or the pump. I chose to mark it with a Sharpie. Before drilling, I'm going to use that spring-loaded center punch that I was talking about in order to make a dimple so that my drill bit does not go walking about. The bung will require a 1/2-inch drill bit, which is what I intend to use. You can use a step drill, but it throws all that stuff inside, whereas a drill bit is fluted and it draws everything out, which is what I think I want to do. Now, when I was actually ready to drill it, I took it out to the street, and I had leveled it. Here you can see that I've leveled it from left to right, and I also leveled it from front to back. The reason being is that now I'm sure that when I filled it all the way up to this hole and to the gooseneck, that I absolutely am positive that there are no air pockets inside of the tank. No air pockets means no vapors means no explosion. At this point, I started with a small pilot hole, and then I started stepping it up in small increments until I reached the 1/2-inch hole that it is that we needed. Now, the key here is if you go slowly, drill slowly, you don't build up as much heat as you do if you were to just whiz a thing through. And here you can see that the water pressure has actually helped me by making all of the metal debris that would have gone in the tank come out. So here you go. Easy peasy.
We're up to the part of the program now in which we have to install the fuel return line bung into the tank. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to remove the bolt and the washer from the bung. And this bung is going to go into the hole. Now, here's what you got to know. There's a little shelf right on the base of the bung. The washer goes on the outside edge of that shelf. If the washer sits on top of the shelf because you misplaced it, you're going to pinch the washer and then you're going to get a fuel leak. So before you begin tightening this down and making sure, you got to make sure that that washer is seated correctly. And don't stop tightening until this thing stops being loose and wiggly. When you're sure you have the bung situated where you need it so that you're not going to pinch the washer, you're going to need a 1-inch wrench. The 1-inch wrench goes on the bung, and you're going to put the washer and the bolt back in to the bung. When it's nice and flush, you're going to tighten that bad boy down with a 9/16" ratcheting device, whether it's a socket or a wrench. We're going to start off with this, but if for some reason we can't get enough torque off of this in order to squish this down, then we might have to switch to something else. So yeah, that bad boy's in there. It doesn't budge. It will wiggle if you do it hard enough, but it's nice and firm. It's in there really nice. A little bit of squeeze out from the O-ring, which what's funny is that the instructions don't tell you what kind of torque you need on this, and I'm just so used to torquing everything. But I will tell you one thing, the 9/16" wrench, yeah, it wasn't good enough. I ended up having to go with a 1/2-inch, well, 9/16" socket 1/2-inch driving wrench. Man, this needed some torque on it, so I ended up having to get somebody to help me to hold the 1-inch while I put some weight down on this, because man, yeah, it was a little bit of a beast. Trying to do this with 2 people, not just 1, because I think you'll get better results. So here's the final installation of my hose running back to the tank. This is the return line. It comes out right in front of the body mount, like I said, and I used more Adel clamps. Yep, these are called Adel clamps, in case you guys didn't know. They come out right here, and I attached it to my previous Adel clamp hole using the same fastener, where this is my brake line. So it continues on my frame down, and I reused another one again right there and put another Adel clamp on it. And then I continued it towards the back. Here you can see I ran it right up against the side here. It continues all the way down, and let me show you a little further. Here you can see how the hose continues towards the rear, and right in front of the rear wheel it hangs a sharp turn, and it continues to mirror the path of my brake hoses. Now the view from the rear, you can see how it follows the brake line, and then it goes up the side of the frame, around the axle, and then here it makes a sharp turn. Now I removed the last part of my exhaust right here so that it gave me some more room to work. I'll reinstall that later. And there you go. There's the final termination of the line. It goes up, around, and up against the trunk, and then comes down, and I've installed one of the 45-degree elbows that comes with the FiTech Mini right into the tank. And everything's been fastened, and I think it looks pretty good. Hopefully it doesn't leak. Something you guys have to remember also, if you're going to decide to do this kind of thing where you're going to run it right up against the bottom of the trunk, when you put in that self-tapping screw, guess what? It sticks out into the trunk. So what I'm going to do, because I don't like the way that looks once I actually open the trunk and I realize what I did, I'm going to go to the store at some point and I'm going to buy a bolt, a nice button-headed bolt that I can paint black later inside of my trunk, and just put a nut underneath here, and maybe with some Loctite, I shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. Well, the Mini is plumbed in now all the way to the tank. The tank is reinstalled and everything is hooked up to it. So this is what it looks like at the moment. Now, there's a couple of things I haven't done and I'm probably not going to do in this video. I haven't installed the pressure gauge on it yet because I'm not sure if I'm going to remove and replace the regulator with something that's a little bit like a 3-bar, because this is a 4-bar, and according to ACES uses the 3-bar system, but it accepts the 4-bar system, but I'm not sure if I really want to do that or not yet, so I haven't installed the gauge. If you are going to replace the regulator, leave the gauge off, because once you install that gauge, it gets in the way of the regulator removal. So that's why I haven't installed it yet. I haven't quite decided what I want to do about it. Alright, so the other thing that I haven't done yet is the wiring, but the wiring is going to be pretty simple. Negative, I'm going to throw a lead across the radiator support, and I'm probably going to get on over to my battery over there, and that's probably going to be a straight shot negative over there. As for the positive, according to the FiTech people, is supposed to go to their EFI. Their EFI has a dedicated wire. So because of that, I wasn't sure what we were going to do in our situation, but actually I looked into it, and it turns out, I asked somebody online actually how the heck they hooked theirs up to their ACES system, and it turns out, because I hadn't read far enough into it yet, that the wire harness for the ACES system actually has a line that's titled Pump Positive. So we're going to go, once we install the wire harness, I'm going to take, and I'm not sure if that's going to be enough wire, but I'm going to run an extension over to my FiTech Mini. And that should be it for it. Now, what am I going to do about these other two lines? Why haven't I hooked them up yet? So the red outlet of the Mini is going to go over to the EFI. The Mini also comes with this great little 10 micron filter. I'm going to install the 10 micron filter somewhere on my wheel well right here, and it'll be a straight shot in and a straight shot out to the EFI system. However, the reason why I haven't mounted it yet or cut the hoses yet is because I don't have a bracket to mount this thing. It didn't come with one. So until I find one and go buy one, I didn't want to cut my hoses until I know exactly the length that I'm going to need. And the same situation happens with the inlet for the pump. The inlet to the pump I haven't finished off yet because I, again, do not know how long the hose needs to be. It turns out that my pump runs a 5/16 hose, and these all are all 3/8. So I didn't buy any 5/16 hose. I have to go back to the store and get it, and I will show probably the final installation of this in my ACES EFI final installation and probably the run-up. But before this thing, I decided to go out and buy this little filter from Edelbrock. It's a 30 micron filter, and I'm probably going to mount it in the lower side of the wheel well down there because, as you can see here, my hose is coming in from the bottom right through the cross member like I said I wanted to do. And this will be somewhere in line, and then it'll come up to this port. Thank you everybody for coming back and visiting with me as I installed the FiTech Mini. If you guys come back again one more time, we're going to be tackling the Asus kill shot installation. I'm hoping to do a couple more videos at least, one for the installation of the kill shot, and another one's probably going to be a separate video for the run-up, for start, something of that nature. At that point, we're probably going to go into a brief outline on how I married the Asus kill shot to the FiTech Mini with the wiring and the plumbing. So come back. Hope you enjoyed these videos. See you next time.